Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday, noon Eastern time. And you know what that means? It is time for Talent Experience Live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, the show that covers everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, recruiting, software as a service in the HR space, the HR space as a whole, talent management, and everything in between. I am your host, Devin Foster, and Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right work. Of course, we joke that is not a typo. It is the reason why we put on content like this on a weekly basis. It is the reason why we have a fantastic blog. It is the reason why we host so many webinars. It is the reason why I Am Phenom is fast approaching, coming up in April. So if you haven't registered, you're going to want to do that sooner rather than later because it's right around the corner. And the reason that we put all of this content on is, number one, to educate, but it is also to inform the greater population of our Intelligent Talent Experience platform, which helps candidates find the right roles faster, employees evolve from their current roles to beyond. Recruiters achieve next level productivity. Managers get better data and insights through automation and analytics. And of course, all of this is powered by super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if you're interested in any of those things that I just mentioned, run, do not walk to phenom.com. You will, I'm sure, get a pop-up for I Am Phenom. You can check out everything, learn on some of our literature, check out some of our case studies and everything in between. So please, it's phenom.com, super easy in the browser above. But wait till the episode's over because we have a good one for you today. Today we are talking about, is it time to rethink your career site? Question mark. Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? I'm kidding. That's my only Anchorman joke for the entire program. Lately, I've seen on the interwebs that there are folks arguing that your talent acquisition team does not need a state-of-the-art career site. And I say, not so fast. I think that this is a hub where folks go to find information about your organization, where they go to apply, where they don't just go once and then never come back to again. Studies show that it takes about 3 to 4 times for a candidate to visit, research, and then eventually apply to your job. And sometimes even more if you have a terrible career site with a terrible application process. But we're going to get into all of that today. We're going to cover the content that you need on your career site, how to measure if it's effective, and what other tools you can leverage to boost engagement and see applications go through the roof. And today I have a very special guest. We have Joanna Keel, our product marketing manager, who oversees the talent acquisition space, the career sites, the candidate experience, and everything in between, to chat and share her knowledge on what is industry best practices, what other organizations are doing with their career sites in the industry, and what to expect in the future. So without any further hesitation, here's Joanna. Joanna, how are you?
Hey, Devin, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited to have you on the program today. How are you feeling? You a little nervous? You all right?
Yeah, I'm a first-time guest, long-time watcher. So
yes, you are going to crush it because I know you are an expert in what we are talking about today. So let's not beat around the bush, Joanna. Let's get straight to, I think, the premise of today's episode. There are folks saying that you don't necessarily need a career site anymore, or it shouldn't be the pillar piece in your talent acquisition approach. With so many ways to apply to jobs, whether it be through third-party sites like job boards or LinkedIn or whatever it may be, with chatbots, with text to apply, with everything in between, is it still viable to have a career site?
Yeah, and Devin, building off what you had said earlier, the short answer is yeah. A career site definitely has to be there. And you can think about it in various different experiences too. So imagine you're a job seeker, right? You're finding jobs everywhere. There's no shortage of jobs.
Mhm.
And in that mix, there's also a lot of fake news you got to navigate too. And where's the single source of truth, right? So people aren't just going to one place and clicking apply anymore. You have to think, you have to cater to where those job seekers are going. And one of the places is straight to the search engine. They're going, I'm looking for product marketing near me. They're not even putting in the city name anymore.
Mhm.
They want it, they know they're going to get those results specifically tailored to them. And then they're looking at that page and clicking directly to it, right? Without your career site, that's going to be really hard for you to show up in that type of search. So that's just one example of why career sites are here to stay.
Yeah, I think the way that the application process has changed in not just the past few years, but in lifetimes and everything. It used to be there was no such thing as really a job application, right? You'd walk into whatever local hardware store or whatever shop was on your corner and say, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" And then years later, there was the paper application, and then the newspaper put out wanted ads and things like that. And now, as you mentioned, there's find product marketing jobs near me, whether you live in Sheboygan or Philadelphia, it doesn't matter. It's super easy to find. I want to ask you, we talked about all of the other ways that folks can apply. When it comes to the traditional approach of applying via career site, what benefits does that have for maybe the organization and then maybe the candidate as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but at a high level, you got to think everything costs money, right? Nothing is free. I don't care where you are, professionally or personally, there's a cost for everything. But one of which a lead, a source that's coming straight to your career site, that could mean that you could spend less on job boards, right? So if you're a talent acquisition team, you absolutely care about this. I mean, you'd love to have the biggest budget ever, right? I mean, who wouldn't? I in marketing would love the biggest budget ever. But that doesn't happen. So it really helps you spend those dollars more wisely.
Mhm.
So you can figure out, where can I source these right candidates from? Where I'm going to get the right candidate for the right job. And then thinking about it on the flip side to the job seeker, and I'll actually share my story of how I came to Phenom. So I was very happy in my last role in product marketing. I love what I do. I'm so passionate about it. But I was ready to be challenged. So I started like any other job seeker, going to job boards, right? And there
Mhm.
was no shortage of jobs. There was hundreds of them that I could apply to. And of course, I'm doing what any job seeker does. I'm scanning the description. Do I have the requirements, experience? And if I got those, green check boxes in my mind, I then took it one step further because I'm like, okay, but am I going to fit in? What is this organization really about? Because I love to promote where I'm at. I like to feel passionate and proud about, where I work. And so that was my next step, is to then go straight to the single source of truth. I'm going to that career site. I want to know what that branding feels like. Do they feel modern? Are they using technology that I think, keeps up within the industry? And one of the reasons why I chose Phenom, you probably don't even know this, is I liked the job description. I landed on our page. It looked good. It looked modern. And then I stumbled upon that Phenom loves dogs. And I said, guess what? So do I. But that was how Phenom, that was never in the job description on any of those job boards. I would have never, ever came across that in my journey had I have not gone over to the career site.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a number of things that you mentioned there. You talk about the content for a second, but before we jump into that, I want to talk about the overall experience on a traditional job board, right? It's plain text. It's your job looks exactly the same as the job that is below you, above you, to the side of you, and everything in between. The job description may have changed a little bit, right? We skim through that. I don't think anybody really goes through it with a fine tooth comb. You want to check and then probably apply. Then you lack the opportunity to showcase your content, to showcase what separates your organization, whether it's dogs, cats, or elephants, right? Whatever your organization loves. And I want to, ask you, when you experienced the Phenom site, did that content feel genuine? It's something obviously that resonated with you, but was it stock imagery? Was it something that felt forced rather than organic when it came to you as a candidate feeling, like this was the right match for you?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. For me, it didn't feel stock, but even if it was, that wouldn't have been a deal breaker. What I liked about my experience was it was consistent. What I read on the job boards matched what was on the career site. What I saw was similar colors, similar look and feel. So it felt like my journey was very consistent. So I didn't feel like I had any doubt when hitting submit with that application, right? I think that's where you get into some hot water, as we've all been that job seeker that you're just submitting and going like, I hope they got it. Honestly, you don't get an email back that, hey, my application went through. There's like no notification. So you're sitting there doubting, did that actually work? Did where I apply? So sometimes as a job seeker, I'd actually do both, because I had no idea if my application was actually going to land in an inbox or a dashboard somewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's recruiting. I say this a lot on the program, is synonymous with sales. And I think it is, as well as in today's market, for a candidate's perspective, right? I see constantly how there are, TikToks or Instagram reels or whatever it may be, where it's this one individual that says they applied to 1,000 jobs. And I think to myself, how could you possibly know if that organization was the right fit? Or are you just spamming things, right? You kind of have to tailor yourself to an organization from time to time. And if you want to stand out, Joanna, you may have to reach out to an individual, right? If you see someone on the career site who is telling their story about how they grew, and then you find them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw that you were able to grow from a SDR manager into a compliance manager, or whatever the case may be. That's an awesome journey. I hope that I have the same opportunity, right? These are out of the box sort of things, but it starts from that content that we just talked about from the career site. I want to ask you, I know we source our content internally, and you touched on it there for a moment, that it doesn't necessarily matter if content is stock imagery or if it is done internally. Are there pros and cons to maybe either of those, if you have a internal resource that you can leverage for content on your career site versus maybe sourcing on your own?
Yeah, I think, and this is where you have to ask yourself as the organization, like, what do I want the experience to be? There's really nothing wrong with stock, right? If that's what you want the experience to be, that can be pulled off in a very professional way. So that is not wrong, first of all. um, but some of the cons, and it's not very memorable. It might be used in other places, so there could be some confusion with the brand, right?
Mhm.
It may not be exactly what you're trying to convey. So that those could be some of the cons of that. It also could be expensive. Stock art is not free. Where if you were to use something internally, right? I mean, it just takes someone with the ability to hold your phone still long
Yeah.
enough. You don't even need a professional camera anymore. If you have purchased a phone the last 2 years, your camera is sufficient.
No, I know. I saw that video of Rihanna. Did you see the Rihanna video
I have
of her at
not,
the
but
concert? Oh,
after this,
she
for
did
sure.
she did like a private concert, and she zoomed. The person must have been in the bleeders, right? And
Mm.
they zoom all the way in. So back to regularly scheduled program. You don't necessarily need the fanciest of cameras, just something to stack it up on so that it's even. Anyway, I digress. Back to your point on creating content by yourself.
Yeah, so but exactly. Like, and that's just to show, like, I think people get a little intimidated, like, oh, I have to have the most professional looking photo. I need the right lighting and the right day and the right blah blah blah. Really, you just need the right feel. A picture is about a feeling, right? Yes, it has to be high quality, but like we said, you can really get that anywhere now. So you don't be scared to grab your phone and grab people in the break room and take a photo, right? That
Mhm.
will resonate a lot more with job seekers and candidates, and even employees like long term, than just a stock image potentially could,
Yeah.
right?
No, that makes sense. I want to ask you, we're comparing and contrasting these twos, but you're going to have to compare and contrast your entire content strategy when it comes to, talent acquisition as a whole.
Yeah.
Is there a way to see if your content is engaging and if one option may be better than the other? How would you suggest folks do that?
That's a really good question, and I think people get lost because it's so big, right? They're like, "Well, I have I have this asset management system, and I have over 100 pieces in there. I don't have time to go in and look at the analytics, and what does that actually mean?" But really, my suggestion would be to start small. Okay. So let's just say your organization, maybe the top departments you're trying to fill are in sales and marketing, or maybe they're frontline, right? Start small, start there. Look at that content. Is that content being shared on social? And could it, right? Could that drive some additional traffic over? Are those pages indexed for search engines? Are they discoverable? First of all, like, why put this content out and do all this work and effort if the search engine can't find it? You're kind of, you're holding yourself back in that way. But some people's like, well, I'm not a marketer, I'm not someone with this code experience. You don't need it anymore. With how smart things are in every day, you can have the intelligence do it. All you have to know is where to look on the dashboard, and that's it. And then make some decisions. So if you're seeing content, for example, maybe you only have two contents for maintenance jobs, but the traffic to those pages are insane. So it's not necessarily in scale with what you're seeing as far as, traffic to the page. You might
Mhm.
think, hey, you know what? I'm getting a lot of traffic here. Maybe I should bump up my content there. So just start small. Don't it's hard to look at the whole thing right away. And then once you start doing these little pieces, before you know it, you've just audited your entire suite of
Yeah.
content.
Absolutely. It's like cleaning up a house room by room, right? Like you can't, if you look at your entire house and you think, oh, this is going to take forever. It's like, I'll start small, and then work my way. My wife does not want to hear that. I start a little bit too small most times, just picking up my pile of clothes and doing some laundry, but neither here nor there. It seems like a daunting task. And I know that folks have, on past webinars hopped on and say, how much content is too content? They've shared that their experience, it's starting to feel polluted to an extent. And I want to kind of counteract that and say, to your point, you can have fantastic content, look at the analytics, but one piece that remains front and center, and I think that is a differentiator when it comes to Phenom, is job recommendations, right? You mentioned that when you started your job search, you hopped on the job boards, right? I think we all know that sometimes those aren't as up to date as they should be. If you clicked on a product marketing manager, then you go to the career site, all of a sudden it's filled. The career site's typically the most up to date source of truth, right? Because it's plugged into the CRM, everything along those lines. Job recommendations, I think, is such a vital piece of content, if you can classify it as that, because it is on the career site itself. It's going to say, hey, Joanna, I know you are interested in this particular marketing role. It's no longer available. Here's others. We mentioned that that's on the homepage. Are there other places that you think that should be when it comes to figuring out what content should be on what pages?
Yeah. And I think it's taking even a step back further. Like, job recommendations only work when they actually give recommendations that the user wants.
Very fair.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter where it is. It could be the first thing you land on the page, but if you're promoting to me engineering jobs or software development jobs, I don't I don't care. It's not relevant to my journey.
Yeah.
It's not going to help me as a job seeker. In fact, like it almost it's not like a negative point. That's not the fair way to say, right? But it almost detracts from my experience.
Yeah.
When I think recommendations, I think the Amazons, the Facebook,
Mhm.
where they're like, hey, yeah, I actually am looking for a smartwatch. Like, how did you know? And it's serving me up those things. So I think that's really important. So rather than saying, like, oh, you have to put your job recommendations, boom, front and center, I think it's getting that personalization done first. That's what really needs to happen to make that job recommendations impactful. And then, like you said, like most things, most consumers, and depending on the generation, um, our attention spans are very limited. So the
Mhm.
more you can put something above the fold, the better.
Yeah,
But I think and that's what's most important about a career site is you can't have this career site that doesn't allow this flexibility. You need the flexibility to say, I want my job recommendations here, or on 10 pages, or on 2 pages. You need to have that ability these days in order to meet the candidate where they are.
absolutely. We oftentimes compare applying to jobs to e-commerce like you just did with Amazon and with, some of the other websites like Facebook and how they recommend jobs. To the folks out there who may suggest that you don't need the career site, I want to ask you this. Are you going to buy your next t-shirt via text message without ever seeing it? Right? Are you going to purchase your next pair of shoes without ever seeing it? Those are things that you may wear once a week, if you're lucky. You spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week with your coworkers. They're going to want to do more research. They're going to want to find out what jobs are recommended. And then back to your point on if the role that is recommended to you isn't the right role for you, stressing that personalization point, it's going to give you the idea that they don't have any jobs open that you're interested in, right? If you are recommended the wrong thing, you're going to think that they are out of marketing jobs. Just like if Amazon recommends water cups instead of sneakers that you are looking for, you're going to assume that they don't have the sneakers that you want. But this is all, very abstract when thinking about it from that perspective. I want to ask you. We can talk about this as marketers all day long. What really matters is the candidate, right? So, how should organizations get feedback on the career site? Should it be through NPS scores? Should it be through talent analytics? Is it a combination of both? What does that look like so that talent acquisition teams are armed with a single source of truth when it comes to tweaking and making the best personalized experience for their candidates?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd recommend both. And here's why I say that is because for any department, HR, talent acquisition, it doesn't matter, marketing, you want to show your impact to business. How is my department impacting the overall business? That is why we are here. I don't care what your function is. That's what we're driving home. That's why we can keep our jobs, right? So by using a combination of the both, you're using your NPS scores to set a benchmark. You're saying, I want to do better than this. And when you think of an NPS score, you're thinking of your promoters, your passives, and your detractors, right? And that's
Mhm.
almost a look back. So it's almost like, okay, maybe you implemented a survey or new changes or new branding on your career site. Um, that's something you could use an NPS score to see how did you do, right? And then where can you go from here? Is there room to improve based on those promoters and detractors? So that's something that'd be great. You could see that on your KPIs. Hey, I have a goal to deliver a 2-point improvement with my NPS score. That can directly correlate to your business impact. But why I say use both is because talent analytics, anything analytics is giving you that real time data to make changes on the fly, right? You don't, that can help you pivot. So you're not crazy surprised that your NPS score is going to go up or down, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like a retail store saying, oh, we're only tracking sales on a monthly basis. Well, if you're doing $0 sales, per
Mhm.
day, you're going to be pretty shocked at the end of the month when you have $0. right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
tracking it in that case daily, you want to know so you can hit that monthly goal. And I get for
Yeah.
HR teams daily is probably way too much. It's finding that right cadence. But that's why the analytics can really help give you those insights to be like, okay, this changed this survey that we did, or this branding. We're still not seeing time on page improve, or we're still not seeing conversion improve. Could we tweak it now before that NPS survey goes out?
Yeah.
So that
No,
really
and,
is the best of both worlds.
absolutely. I think you raise a super important point of tracking it on a more regular basis. It almost reminds me of annual reviews, right? We had a conversation on this program with JD a few weeks ago about how you have to have those regular check ins. NPS scores are going to give you that start fresh point of, all right,
Mhm.
we improved 2 points, we declined 2 points. Let's make changes. But having those regular analytics meetings where you can see if things are trending the right way are really what's going to help improve that NPS score as a whole. I want to ask you specifically around hosted apply, right? We oftentimes, the traditional approach for talent acquisition was apply clicks to apply completed, right? That was all that you were offered. When it comes to hosted apply, are there other intricacies that you can see in order to improve that process and hopefully have that apply click to completed apply ratio go up through the roof, thus creating a better NPS score?
Yeah. Well, and especially with the NPS sort, right? It's all about sentiment. And people want easy in everything in life. If I said, "Hey, do you want easy or do you want hard?" No brainer. Everybody is going to say easy. And that's what hosted apply does. It delivers a consistent experience for the candidate. So I don't feel like my information's going into a black hole. It's just launching right then and there, right? And especially nowadays with information being stolen and there's a lot going on. I want to feel confident that my data that I'm giving you is going where it should go. Right. And hosted apply just really gives the candidates that confidence level that, hey, I'm ready to hit apply. You can see what they did. You could even make pivots to be like, okay, people are going through it, but they're actually still not submitting it through. Why is that? Um, Without that, you don't get those data points. You don't get that ability to improve your own processes, right?
Mhm.
Um, and plus, like if you're thinking about it from any experience, that's what you want. You want it to look the same, feel the same, and then get out as fast as you can, right?
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right, and you can see those drop off points, right? You want it to be as easy as possible. If there is the slightest hiccup in a job application, people will abandon it. It's not like doing your taxes, where if you have a hiccup, you'll put it down, come back, and try and do it again, or you'll hear from the IRS. It's more so if you hit a roadblock while you're applying for a job, you're likely not going to go back to. So you want to identify that as soon as possible, especially if you mentioned, the manufacturing jobs. If there is a knockout question or,
Mhm.
potentially something's worded that is causing drop off, you're going to want to rectify that as soon as possible. I
That's
want to ask you as we go through this. I know I wasn't bashing chatbots or anything before, but I was just explaining the differences. What benefits are there from having your chatbot connected to your career site to having that entire holistic approach? Are you able to see those same site of insights and analytics that we just talked about from the career site if it is connected?
Yeah, think of your chatbot as your buddy who works all the time, that doesn't demand anything from you, that is always just there, just being your ally. Because that's the thing, right? Is people are working all hours, strange hours, from all over the world, especially with hybrid positions. Time is not a thing anymore. Nor is device. It used to be what you were on your laptop and that's the only way you applied for jobs. No, you can have your resume easily on your phone now. So meeting candidates and job seekers where they are is so important. And why I bring that up is because the chatbot works across all of them, right? And it's going to constantly keep that candidate engaged. So they know if they keep coming back. They ask if they want to build a profile, and it's really just building this trust. And so it's like, the chatbot has your best interests in hand, right? Because it keeps just wanting to check in. Or think like if you can't find something, you're like, hey, I just wanted to look for jobs in this area, right? It can help with that. If you can't navigate that on your own, the chatbot can really help simplify those navigations, which really keeps people time on site, which means they're more likely going to hit that apply button.
Yeah.
So,
It makes sense. I mean, I have my phone on my desk here right now, right? It's with you all the time. It is your source of truth. And oftentimes, I mean, I can think back to jobs in the past where I hated, right? Like that's where my job site or job search started, right? It could have been a bad conversation with your boss or wherever it may be. All of a sudden, you're walking out to your car and you're searching, product marketing jobs or whatever it may be. Like having that experience be genuine and providing the best experience throughout is best. And as you mentioned, chatbot might be one of those ways to do that. I want to call out a couple of the comments that came through. Jennifer Thomas has been blowing up the comment section. Thank you, Jennifer. Transparency is a really big right now, especially when it comes to job descriptions. This is where real employee photos and videos can help. I completely agree. And she also shared that DHL has a great story of how they're using career sites in a bunch of different ways. You can check it out here. And she dropped the link as well. So thank you to her. Now, Joanna, I know we talked about, you shared about how easy is the best way, right? We want everything to be seamless as buying our groceries online or shopping on Amazon. Oftentimes, too often, I would say, companies create these fantastic candidate experiences. Someone goes through seamlessly. There's no roadblocks. There's content throughout. Everything is sunshine and roses. And then they go to schedule an interview, and it is right back to manual tasks, playing phone tag, email back and forth, calendar Jenga, as I like to call it. Are there other solutions when it comes to the candidate experience as a whole that are going to create a better experience, such as scheduling? And can all of this be combined together, maybe within that chatbot experience or in that career site experience, if someone meets all of the requirements to get them scheduled for those high volume roles or those really important, vital roles that you need filled?
Yeah, Devin, you're right. Even with all the technology today, 60% of recruiters say that's my number one challenge is the calendar. And you know what? To be fair, I'm not a recruiter, I'm marketing, and I just want to get a calendar, a meeting booked. Same.
Yeah.
So I think everybody is having this meeting fatigue. How do I get things booked in these calendars? So what's really great about these tools is it's automating those processes, right? It's syncing directly in so you know what times are available. So if you're a job seeker, you're like, oh, can I do 11, or I take my lunch break at noon? You're trying to slip out the back door to get an interview. I mean, that's the reality of what's happening. So candidates need that front and center of what times can I pick? And this goes beyond just knowledge workers, right? Where knowledge workers might need more flexibility, or canceling and rescheduling. Whereas in high volume situations, you just need to get them scheduled as fast as possible and get them hired as fast as possible, right? So there's all different types of scenarios is really what I'm trying to say. And without these tools, I seriously cannot imagine navigating that anymore. The time lost to the organization is so significant that the intelligence just removes all of that for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just did that for a family reunion. I sent out a calendar link and said, hey, vote. I'm not taking the drama anymore.
Yep.
Pick these weekends, pick these times. It's the same thing. And then when life happens and things changes, the job seeker can go back in and be like, you know what? I thought 11 a.m. was a good time. It's actually not. I want to take the 3 o'clock. Before that was all manual. It was all so hard to do that. But these tools now just enable you to quickly change on the fly like that, which allows you to get people through the door and hired a lot faster.
Yeah. No, and that's the end goal, right? At the end of the day, is getting people, providing that seamless experience, getting them from point A as an applicant to point E as an employee. I don't know if that's trademarked yet, but we definitely should. A to E, right? And the steps in between. Neither here nor there. We've talked about it all today, Joanna. We've talked about how career sites aren't going anywhere. So don't let anybody tell you different. We've talked about chatbots. We've talked about content. We've talked about how to analyze those sort of things. I want to ask you, is there anything that we may have missed? Any topics that you want the viewer at home that watching this, they should certainly have before they leave?
Yeah, I think one thing that's just really important is, and like I said, is start. Number one, if you haven't done this already, start. It's not that hard. The technology is there, intelligence is there working quietly in the background. It is not difficult to learn. Just start. If you've started, but you're like, I don't know where to go, start small. Choose a few things. Try to identify in your business where are those big job blockers, or is there departments, and focus on that, and really focusing on delivering a personalized experience. I cannot drive that home more. There's no reason why you're not doing it. The intelligence is there. You literally toggle on a button. And what that's going to do is, for that job seeker, is everything was like, hey, you are talking to me. I am seeing the day in the life of, the marketing team. I'm seeing how my role would go through. I'm seeing the job description I can easily apply. By streamlining that process with that personalized journey, you're going to see business impact across all departments. So that is one thing I would just highly like to drive home, is that personalize it. You have to do it. And if you're not doing it, you're losing. And guess what? You'll be forced to do it a couple of years later, because you just will not get the candidates.
Yeah, and you'll be behind the 8 ball if you don't start now. So I love that. Personalization is the key. Start today. Joanna, this has been a fun conversation. How was it? Was it? I know you were a little nervous. We talked about it at the beginning of the program. Did it go smoothly?
It did. It did go smoothly.
did?
I'm glad to rip this Band-Aid off, and then the next time I'll be like, okay.
Yeah. Now we got to get you on again, and then we get you one of the jackets that says recurring guest. But this
Yes.
has been an awesome time. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll get you back on here soon.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thank you, Devin.
All
Thank
right,
you,
cool. See you
everybody.
later. Bye. There you have it. That was everything around career sites from Joanna Keel, our product marketing manager over here. I think we can sufficiently say that it is not time to rethink your career site when it comes to removing it. It is time to go full steam ahead and continue to build out content and build out everything in between. So thank you so much for joining. But before we go, I started a new segment last week, and nobody told me not to do it this week. So this segment is always song lyrics that are thought-provoking and everyone should know for the rest of their lives and apply to daily life. And I think it's very fitting because we're talking about candidates, right? And candidates, they want it all or nothing at all. There's nothing left to fall. And when you reach the bottom, it's now or never. And I can tell you what, it is now or never to register for I Am Phenom because tickets are flying off the shelves, and you are not going to want to miss this event coming up in April in Philadelphia, the 23rd through the 25th. Shout out to O-Town, who was behind that lyrical lemonade that I just gave to you. I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your Thursday. We will see you next week. We're going to be chatting about skills with John Deal. We haven't locked him in yet, but he's going to be here. And have a happy, healthy, and safe weekend. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.